So to get into your datasheet options, you go to File and Options, and it's going to be your third one down, Datasheet. And this is pretty simple. It just allows you to modify the way that your datasheets look in Access. So you can get rid of our grid lines that define where your cells are. You can get rid of both of those, either horizontal, vertical, or both. You can change the default cell effect. So right now it's flat, but you can make it raised or sunken, and we'll just look at what raised looks like. You can change the width of your column. By default they're 1 inch, but you could change this, say, to 2 inches. And then you can change your font default. So let's take a quick look at what that will all look like. So we'll just close these. And we'll reopen the table and see what it looks like. Okay, so you'll see now we have the raised up cells. They kind of look a little bit three-dimensional. We have 2-inch column headers here. And you can still see the grid lines, but if we go back, go to Options again, and we go back to Flat, click OK, close that again, open it back up. Now we're back to our regular color, but as you can see the grid lines from here are hidden. So that just gives you a kind of a more clean, easy on the eyes kind of a look. So we'll change those options all back. Put back our grid lines, change this back to 1 inch, and click OK. Then when we close that and open it again, we're all updated and back to our original design. Okay, let's look at some more options. We're not going to get into object designers too much, but this is kind of cool just because you can change your table design view. So for instance, you noticed when we were doing our field type or data type, it would default as short text. But you can change this to default as something else. For instance, if you're creating a database that is using primarily numbers, you could set this default to number. And that would just save you from having to change it on the drop down every time. But you can change the text field size and the number field size here. You have some options to change your query design. You can customize your form and report design view a little bit. And you can disable different checks for errors to show up. And then this will, you can even change the color. So mine right now is a lime green error color, but you can pick your own color if you wanted. Okay. So I'm going to put this back to short text. And let's look at proofing. So this is where you can change your autocorrect options by clicking here. You can adjust your spelling options. So by default it ignores words in uppercase, words that contain numbers, internet and file addresses. You can have it not flag repeated words, and so on. You can customize your dictionaries, and it's got some different languages that you can work with. And you've got your language tab, and this is just where you choose your editing languages and display languages. You have your client settings. So this changes the way that Access behaves when you do certain actions. So for instance, when you hit the enter button when you're in a field, you can either have it stay in the same field, you could have it move to the next field, or you could have it go to the next record. And these are all just different options here. Like for instance, you can have it automatically select the entire field, you can have it go to start a field, or you can have it go to the end of field. And actually, let's just demonstrate a couple of these. Let's say don't move and go to end of field. Click OK. So let's close that one and reopen it. So when we click into this, see our cursor goes to the end of the field. When we hit enter, it stays in that field. Remember before when we hit enter, it would go to the next field. But now when we hit enter, it just selects on that and stays in the same field. Okay. So we'll change those back. We want this to go to the next field. We want that to go select entire field. Let's take one more look at it. So we'll close that again, open it, When we select into that now and hit enter, it goes to the next field and it selects everything in the field. And we do it again and it selects everything in the field. Okay, let's close that and look at some more options. You can change your arrow key behavior. You can change your default find and replace behavior. These are confirmations, so for instance when you delete a document, it's going to ask you, do you want to delete this? And you can disable that if you want. Those are nice to have though because they're good fail-safes. You can have the movement that your cursor moves. You can have it go left to right or right to left. You can change your general alignment, cursor movement. These are some display properties that you can change, printing margins that you can change, general settings that you can change. And then down here are some advanced options which I won't get into. Okay, the next one is the customize the ribbon. So this is your ribbon across the top of the screen with all of your tools. And so this is your ribbon and what's in there now, and these are all of the options for things that you can add. And you want to be very careful about doing any major changes with this, especially if you don't have a good reason for it. But if you do have a good reason and you want it to be more customized to your working style, that's okay. But just make sure it's something you really want to do before you change it, and keep track of your changes. If you do ever make changes you don't like, you can always go back to customizations and say reset all customizations, and that'll put you back to the default settings. So let's just say that we wanted to add this close command to the views tab. Kind of random, but I just want to show you how to do it. We select on that. We click new group. It's going to allow us to add a new one in here. We click on close and we click add. And now under our views tab, we have a new group called close. So let's take a look at what that does now. So now we have a close option, and we can rename this as well, but if we're in our table here, we can do our normal view here, but we can also close it by clicking here. So that's just a customization to the ribbon that you could do. So we'll go ahead and undo that. And I can either do that by going in here and selecting that and removing it, or you could reset it to reset all customizations. Okay, so that's that. That's how you modify the ribbon. And you can sort here by all tabs, main tabs, which is what we're in, or just tool tabs specifically. Or you can go to this side and you can sort by popular commands, commands not in the ribbon, all commands, macros, and so on. And for instance, if you go to all commands, you'll see a much bigger list of commands that you could use to put into your ribbon and customize it the way you want it. Okay, there's a similar one with the quick access toolbar. And you may recall earlier in the course I used the quick access toolbar up here and I customized it right from here. But you can also do that here. So you just click on whatever you want in the toolbar and click add, and it puts it in there. And when you click OK, it'll populate it in your quick access toolbar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that, leave it as is. And I won't go into this, but you can manage your add-ins in this option screen. And then you have the Trust Center, which is just Microsoft kind of telling you more about safety and security, and you can modify your settings from there. So that's a basic overview of your access options. You can see that the ones you'd mostly use would be your current database options and your datasheet options. But again, just a reminder, be careful and kind of conscientious when you're making these changes. Keep track of what you're doing so that if you do something you don't want, you can get back to it and change it back. But that can make some of your work a little easier if you customize these things to suit your working style.